Perfect. All right. So I think we should start only because, people who are here on time, deserve us starting on time. So for those of you who, is there anybody who doesn't know me? Maybe Andy. Jen. I don't know who Jen is. I don't know if I've met Jen.
Jen is part of Kristen's team.
Okay. And I'm not sure if I know Andy. But anyway, so I'm Pam O'Brien, and I am Keller Williams International Master Faculty. I've been an agent. I'm an agent with a team. I've been on the ALC, International ALC, which was super fun. I've been a team leader, general manager. Trying to think of whatever roles are available within KW, because I've had almost all of them except for MCA, which you would not want me to be MCA, or OP. So those are the only two. And I just moved back to Alexandria, Virginia. I'm renovating a 1930 row house. And with any luck, I'll be able to move in next month. Really fingers crossed. So, although everything is supposed to be done by the end of this month, which means I'm hoping middle of August, right? Because that's just the way life works right now. So I want to talk about working smarter rather than harder, because what I find is that when I say, hey, let's work smarter, people automatically hear hire help. And yet there's 3 ways to work smarter. And so I'm going to get tired of talking for the whole time. So what do you guys think? What are 3 ways, or what are 2 other ways besides hiring that you can work smarter instead of harder?
Follow your schedule.
That would be a brilliant one, Pam. Yes, absolutely. Following your schedule would be a really great one. So I like to start with 1, improving your skills. The number 1 way that you can work smarter instead of harder is improving your skills and being better at the skills that will help you to be successful. The second thing is systems, and understanding your systems and having your systems running at a high level. Now, we're not going to go too much into systems today, because I've got a whole class on that, like a whole day class on implementing systems into your world. And then the third thing, and only after you optimize number 1 and number 2, I think should you then start thinking about leverage. Because let's do the stuff that doesn't cost money first, and then do the stuff that costs money. So where do we want to start? Obviously, where it doesn't cost you money. So why skills? Why am I looking at skills? Oops, people are going to be chatting, aren't they? Chat. Speaking my love languages. Yes, don't spend money. I understand. So this is the economic model from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And if you are not well versed in the economic model, I recommend that you dig back into understanding it, because this will be very key to knowing what skills you need to work on so you can work smarter. So if, for example, you wanted to make $250,000 and your average sales price was $300, at 29 units sold, you'd have 8.5 million, and you'd be there at about your 250,000. So let's take that 29 units. So if you want to close 29 units and your conversion ratio between representation agreement and closing is 70%, that means you need 42 representation agreements. So 42 people need to hire you. Buyer agreement, listing agreement, one or the other, 42 people need to hire you. If your conversion ratio is only 50%, that means you need 58 people to actually sign a representation agreement. A lot more work, right? Now, if you're going to do 42 representation agreements and your conversion rate from appointment to representation agreement is 70%, you only need 60 appointments over the course of the whole year. That's not bad, right? It's like 1 and a fraction a week of work weeks. Whereas if we're still at 50% conversion rate, you need 116 appointments a year to have the exact same number of closings and have the exact same amount of income.
Wow.
That's pretty shocking, isn't it? Yeah, that really, when I did the numbers on this, I was like, wow. So if I can just improve my conversion rates 20% between appointment to having them sign a representation agreement with me, and 20% between representation agreement and closing, I can either make twice as much money with the same work, or I can do the same work. I can make the same money in half the amount of time. Because the hardest, most costly thing that we do is getting the appointment, right? So once you've got the appointment, don't you owe it to yourself to convert those appointments at the millionaire real estate agent level? And I hear people say all the time, oh, well, you know, no big deal. I'll just go on more appointments until more people hire me. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. So what we know is that professionals practice in private, amateurs practice in public. And part of the reason that the American public thinks that we're a bunch of amateurs is that we're out there practicing in public. So we need to have our skills at a really high level before we get in front of the consumer.
Mhm.
So I'm going to show this to you just another way. So let's just say that we wanted to have 3 appointments a week, right? If we said, okay, 3 appointments a week, that feels very manageable to me with a new buyer or new seller. First time that they have the opportunity to sign a representation agreement. These are not showings. These are not second visits, first time appointments. And if you did that 48 weeks a year, you'd have 116 appointments. Okay, that's pretty cool. If you converted those at 70%, that means 81 of them are going to hire you. And if you convert those at 70%, 56 are going to ratify a contract. Now, I take this one step further, and I like to put in a fallout rate between contract and closing, because I've been in this business a long, long time. And what I know is that over markets, over time, deals fall out. And over this particular market, we've been seeing buyer's remorse at a remarkable rate. So I like building in a little bit there. So let's just safe side it and call it 50 closings. If you have an average $450,000 sales price, which given where most of you guys are, I'm guessing 450 is a very fair average sales price.
Mhm.
That would be $22.5 million in volume. At 3% commission is $675,000. And all it takes is you having your systems in place and your skills good enough that you have 3 appointments a week. So let me stop here for a second, see if there's any questions, ahas. So throw it in the chat box. How many hours right now per week do you spend practicing your skills? Just throw it in the chat box or raise your hand, unmute yourself. How many hours per week do you spend practicing? I'm not seeing any chat showing up there. Oh, there we go. We got 1, 4. Okay, so Pam and I are probably the 2 who've been in real estate the longest on this call. And we still practice. And I notice everybody else is very quiet. So I don't remember who won the Super Bowl last year. Anybody remember? Who was that?
Tampa Bay.
Okay. How many hours did they practice once they met the playoff? They got to the playoffs, right? So they stopped practicing. Woohoo, we made the playoffs. We're in the best. We don't have to practice anymore. We're done. No, that isn't the way it worked. Oh, once we get to the major leagues, we don't have to practice anymore. There's a reason they practice. So what skills do you need to improve? And I think sometimes when I say, well, you need to be practicing, the people go, well, I don't know, what should I practice? Okay, well, we have segments of the business that we need to practice. And so what skill can you practice and get better at that would help you to get more appointments?
Scripts.
And so
Scripts.
Scripts, exactly. That's scripts. Scripts is it. And so what's your appointment setting script? What script do you currently use to get more people to actually meet with you, to demonstrate value, that they're going to set an appointment and then show up for that appointment and talk to you about buying or selling real estate?
Well, I more in the buyer side,
Mhm.
and I use the script that I took the time to really write down every single word that the son of Diana Kokoschka in that buyer presentation. So I
Mhm.
use that.
Okay, what is it? So if we were talking, what would you say to get me to meet with you?
Oh, before.
Yeah, so I'm going to do an appointment. So we're talking about real estate and you want to close me for an appointment so you can get me to sign a rep agreement. What are you going to say? So I'll meet with you.
Well, I always start talking. Well, they call me. Well, that is depends. If it's a listing, it's different. I'm
Sure.
more the buyer.
Okay.
And usually buyer are people that are looking for you,
Mhm.
or people that may be in your data. Most of them are referrals. So it's people that really want it. And one of the things that I always tell them is that the goal that I have is to give them all the knowledge that they can have a educated decisions into this buyer presentation, and
Okay.
not just signing and signing, but knowing what they are gonna sign. And I'm gonna just talk to them in a very, you know,
Okay, but you need to get them to the appointment. What do you say to get them to meet with you?
okay. So to get to that point, so what is the best time for you? I have this and that time.
Oh, okay. So you're just going to assumptive close. That's called assumptive close, right? I'm just going to assume that you're going to meet with me. So great. I like a script to set appointments that's something like, experience shows that by investing 30 to 45 minutes with me, I can save you from 20 to 60 hours in your home search and the hassle throughout the process. I'm available Wednesday or Friday, which works better for you. So value, experience shows, invest time with me. Don't spend time with me, invest time with me.
Mm-hmm.
And what are you going to get on the other side of investing time with me? You're going to get 20 to 60 hours back. As a busy professional, I imagine that's a value to you, isn't it? Right? Scripts. So like Kristen said, scripts and role plays, you need to have really good scripts, and then they need to sound like they're not the first time you're saying them. In my experience, people who don't like scripts are people who don't practice scripts. If you don't like scripts, it's because they sound canned. Like, okay, let's just get real. What are the scripts for why you don't like scripts? They sound canned. They don't sound like me. They sound like, right? Like everybody has the same script for why they don't like scripts.
Hey, Pam.
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually just had this conversation recently where I was like that, right? I hated scripts and I had all of those scripts why I didn't like scripts until I actually started practicing them and doing them. And in practicing and doing them, then I made them my own and I became comfortable with them and I didn't feel scripted or sound scripted because I was practicing them,
Exactly.
which I do more of. But.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. When we practice and get more comfortable with them, they just become the way we talk. And the more you practice it, the more comfortable it is and the more natural it sounds.
That's true.
So I think most of you know that I was in London. I opened up the Keller Williams in London, UK, and I taught Ignite to the agents there. So brand new agents, and we're teaching Ignite. And in Ignite, you have to pick up the phone and make some calls, right? Like you have to call your sphere of influence and you have to, say things. And they all looked at me and went, I can't say that. They'll think I'm mad. And I said, do it anyways. And they did it and they hated it. But after a little while, they're like, wait, this works. Hold on a minute. So even not letting them update a word of the script to make it British instead of English, we just did it straight the way it was written. After they did it a little bit, they're like, wait, hold on, this works. That's pretty awesome, right? So we know that when you've got a good script that it works. So be careful about changing a script that you don't take the power away from it. Because I'll hear people say, well, that doesn't sound like me, so I'm going to make it my own. Okay, be careful though that you're not taking the power. Because if you're not sure what is it that makes that script work and you're changing it, you might be losing what makes it powerful. So be aware of that. So the number one thing that you can practice to get more appointments is scripts. And I'm going to say you need a really, really compelling appointment setting script. In other words, something that people are going to go, wow, I really need to meet with you, or I'm going to lose something. Because we know that fear of loss is stronger than promise of gain. So what are you going to give them? What will they miss getting if they don't meet with you? Because I want them to, one, set the appointment, but two, I want them to show up. I want them to get there. So the second piece is, okay, now I've got people in front of me. Great, I set an appointment. What skills can I practice and get better at besides scripts? Because we know we need to practice scripts now. So besides scripts, what skills can I invest time in myself to practice and get better at that gets more of those appointments to sign a rep agreement? What skills are those? You can either unmute yourself or put it in the chat.
Break the ice, maybe?
Say again.
Break the ice?
Break the ice, that's a good skill. Yeah, build rapport, break the ice. That's a good start. What else?
Listen.
Listening. Listening is a skill you can practice and get better at. And if you don't believe me, ask your significant other. Yep. We can all practice and get better at that one. And everybody in your world will appreciate it when you do. So yep, listening. Keep going. There's you guys are all licensed real estate agents, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've been practicing for a little while. I mean, you have a license longer than, you know, like, okay, come on, what skills do you need to get more people to sign your rep agreement?
Just be confident and let them see that your commitment is coming, you know, with right
Yeah.
words. And
Okay, yeah, I think that's a good one. What about your presentation?
Of course.
Yes,
Yeah.
you need to have a pretty good presentation, right? Or consultation. I prefer a consultation. Pam Moyer says questions. Knowing how to ask questions and open-ended questions. I am going to tell you guys that open-ended questions are a challenge to learn because we go immediately to closed questions. So we say if somebody comes into your open house, ask open-ended questions. Great. Do you live nearby? No. Closed question. Are you looking to buy or sell? No. Closed question. Right. What's a question that we ask that's an open-ended question and gets them talking cannot be answered with a yes or no? That was one, by the way. What I just gave you, that was an open-ended question, right? What specifically attracted you to this house today? So knowing how to ask powerful questions. Delara said objection handling. Absolutely. Objection handling. How, what, when, where. Yeah, exactly. How, what, when, where. Tell me more. Right? Those types of questions get people talking. So you need questions, objection handling, closing. We need to be able to close. Great. Let's get the paperwork out of the way. That, by the way, is a perfect closing. Let's get the paperwork out of the way. We don't have to get all crazy about it. Just let's get the paperwork out of the way. Make it easy. Make it just natural. It's part of the thing. I think sometimes it's time to get the agreement, you know, the rep agreement signed. And we're like, okay, oh no. Or, I'll just send it to you. Look in your email.
That was a good kid.
Let's get the paperwork out of the way, right? Make this easy. Okay, cool. So any other skills that I should be good at and practice to get more people to hire me, to sign the rep agreement? I can think of at least a couple more. How about market knowledge?
I was going to say market knowledge and probably just knowing, I mean, it's part of the presentation, but knowing, you know, the process so you can explain the process to the buyer.
Yes, exactly. Market knowledge, knowing how much did that house go for? How much did this house go for? Knowing what's happening. What are the trends in the neighborhood? If you're a newer agent, you should be previewing 5 to 10 houses every single week. get out and look at houses. Get out and look at houses. And preferably if you have a neighborhood where you tend to specialize. If not, just get out previewing and understand the market at a higher level. If you're going after listings, you need to know how to price. You need to know how to pick the right price that it's going to go for. So would anyone like a way to practice pricing?
Yes.
Thank you for saying so, Sarah. Like, you were on my last class. You understand that if nobody says yes, I don't answer. Good.
Oh my God, Pam, if you only knew how much your exact script helped me get clients. I'm going to a listing
Yeah.
right now to get a signature just because I use your script. I think that's the most important.
I'll take it. I'll just take it. I'll take credit. No problem.
Yeah.
Very well done, Sarah.
Thanks.
So to practice pricing, I'm very old school, so I'll just admit I'm old school. That I believe in your MLS, you can print houses like 6 on a page, right? So you have like the address, the price, 6 on a page. Okay, so print 6 on a page, as many as that you're going to go preview them, and then write down what price do you think they're going to sell for, and how long will it take? And then once it closes, go back and check. Okay, how much did it sell for? How long did it take? And if you were really far off, call the listing agent and say, hey, I'm learning how to do pricing, and that is not at all what I thought that was going to go for. Can you help me understand, please? And learn, right? Because all this is practice. And again, we don't want to practice on paying customers. We want to practice in private. And that's a beautiful way to do it. So just go preview everything you can, write it on it. This is what I think it's going to sell for, and I think it's going to take this long. And then you can practice and see, oh, wow, okay. I thought that one was going to go for more than it did, and it didn't. I had this happen myself. The house across the street went on the market, and I really thought it was going to break 800, and it didn't. It went at 792. I was really surprised, a little disappointed, really surprised. Somebody's going to break 800 in my neighborhood soon before I have to. I want that to happen. Okay, so closing, your scripts, your market knowledge, your presentation, the paperwork. Oh, please know the paperwork. Please know what it's going to say. I used to have a buyer and seller book. And so my buyer book literally was all the paper, all the documents they were going to see throughout the whole process. I would just say, look, you're going to see all this stuff during the process. You're a grown-up. I'm not going to read to you because I hate when people want to read to me. And I want you to know that there's nothing scary in here. So here's everything you're going to see. So here's the sales contract. Here's all the addenda. Here's the buyer rep agreement. Everything you're going to see, Alta form, a GFE, TIL, everything you're going to see. An inspection. I put an actual inspection from a real house in there. Blacked out the name, blacked out the address, but I put a real inspection. And then literally I'm like, everything you're going to see, here it is. Now, I put it in a 3-ring binder. I bought the ones that had the little plastic in the front so I could put, a custom sheet with their name and, the, home buying journey for, the Lopez's. Ta-da, right? Makes them feel really nice about it. So you've got it all ready to go. Everything they're going to see, give it to them up front. Give it to them up front so they know it's not scary. Now, I've got a rep agreement. I want to get them under contract. What are the skills that I can practice and get better at that are going to get, let's start with buyers first, that are going to get more buyers that I represent under contract? What skills are those?
Know the contract.
Know the contract. Yes. Thank you. What else?
Negotiating skills.
Thank you, Ania. Yes. Really great book, Never Split the Difference. If you haven't read that one, yeah, that's a really good one. Never Split the Difference is a great one. He's also got a class on one of those learning platforms. I don't remember, but he's got a class that you could take too. That same author. So yes.
Too.
Who?
He has a real estate class on his website.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Yeah, and there is actually a certification that you can get called the Certified Negotiation Expert certification for real estate agents. Because we go in and we tell buyers and sellers, I'm an expert negotiator. Really? Then why'd you cut your commission already? Yeah, okay. Maybe we should learn something about negotiating. So yes, negotiating, we need to know the paperwork. For a buyer, I think we need to have a really, really good needs analysis. The reason that we as real estate agents say buyers are liars is because we don't ask good questions. We need to ask better questions to help the buyers understand what is it that they're really looking for. We need to dig below the surface a little bit. Tell me more about that. What's important about that? What does that look like? Because somebody might say to you, oh, I need to have a really big kitchen. And your idea of a really big kitchen and their idea of a really big kitchen are completely different. So what does that look like? In Texas, we used to call them a two-butt kitchen. Can two people be in there at the same time and not be bumping? Does it work, right? How does that work? Palwasha, maybe I said that right, said facilitate the process by providing more knowledge. Absolutely, right. We want to absolutely do that. So when you're working with a buyer, I think the key skill for you to practice and get better at is needs analysis and helping them get absolutely clear on what it is they're looking for. And then have a simple structure, system, strategy to help them evaluate the houses that they're looking at. Because I don't know about you, but I've gotten back from showing, I don't know how many times, and they're like, oh yeah, we like that one with the big backyard and the green bedroom. It's like, well, the one with the green bedroom didn't have the big backyard. Those were two different houses, but they sort of, got them all in their head. So I just did a simple, I never showed more than 5 at a time because they can't remember, they cannot process more than 5. So 5 houses, 5 items on the needs analysis, just do a 5x5 grid. Okay, these are the top 5 things you said you wanted. First one, this house, scale of 1 to 5, how do you rate it? Next one, how do you rate that? Hey, if we get to 20 points or more, we're gonna go write an offer. Simple, helps them feel more confident, helps them get over the like, ooh, this is too much and I don't know how to organize all this. For sellers, I'm going to go back to Delara, who said objection handling. You're going to, in working with listings, you're going to have to get good at objection handlers. Why should they hire you now? Why should they pay your commission? If you want to have something really fun, just go ahead and say, well, let's just say $10 million. So if you did $10 million in volume and you only did 2.5% commission, how much is that? How much do you make? On $10 million, 2.5% commission, do the math, what you got? $250,000. Yeah. 10 million, 2.5, 250,000. Okay, what if you got 3% commission on that same 10 million? Now you're at 300,000. What if you've got 3.5% commission? And what would you have to do to be worth 3.5% commission in your head? Because price is only an issue in the absence of value. And I can prove that by pointing out all these cars driving down the road that are not the cheapest car they can buy. So price is only an issue in the absence of value. People do not necessarily just want the cheapest. They want the best value. So what value would you have to provide to be worth 3.5% on every deal you did? Well, kick that one around for a little while. Okay. Contract to closing. What skill can you practice and get better at that will get more deals all the way to closing?
What time is it? We should leave soon.
Yeah, it's 1:34.
We should leave at
All right,
2.
I think Pretty's just talking to somebody else. I'm gonna mute her.
So when you say contract to closing, you mean if you're a buyer's agent?
Doesn't matter, right? Because I mean, generally the person who cancels tends to be the buyer, though it could be the listing. I have had sellers that have canceled, though it generally tends to be buyers. So what skill can I get better at so my buyers don't back out after contract?
Negotiation, communication, and expectation management.
Bingo. Yes. And I would start with expectations, because the secret of this is that if you lose a deal after contract, it probably fell apart at the appointment, but you didn't figure that out yet. A deal that falls apart after contract really fell apart at the initial consultation. It just didn't blow up yet. And then just out of curiosity, because I think this would be really fun, knowing that if somebody introduces you to a friend, coworker, family member who needs real estate help before you close on their house, 85% chance they'll continue to introduce you to more people after they close. So with that being the case, what skills could you get better at to get referrals before they close?
Asking for referrals.
That would be helpful. Yes, absolutely.
I think that part of your presentation should be asking for referrals.
Absolutely. Now,
But
I want
also getting a little more personalized, like talk about their kids and their needs, and people like to be heard sometimes, and and then that also helps with keep getting referrals maybe.
Yes. Yes. And I think part of it is back to expectations. So what Anna was talking about, maintaining contact. Yes, absolutely, Alyssa. Maintaining contact, although during the process, we tend to be in pretty good contact. So I belonged to a group for a long time called Buy Referral Only with Joe Stump. He and Brian Buffini used to be in business together ages and ages ago, and now they both have referral learning companies. And one of the things he said that always stuck with me and works really well is he said, anytime somebody says, wow, thank you, that is your opening to ask for an introduction to somebody else. Now, I've stopped using the word referral and moved to introduction. And I did that because emotionally, it's easier for people to give you an introduction than a referral. I don't know why. There's just something about, if I refer you, I am taking on responsibility for the outcome. Whereas if I introduce you, I am not necessarily taking responsibility for the outcome. And people may be a little uncomfortable in referring you before you even close, whereas they'll probably introduce you before they close. The other thing is be careful about not asking too soon. So for example, I went to, I move around a fair amount. So I was in a new town, went to a new dentist, and the minute I walked in the door, they're already asking me for referrals. And I'm like, I don't know if I like you yet. Stop it. Like, come on. It was just too much, right? Like, it was like, bam, right? Like, hold on a minute. The opening for asking for a referral or an introduction is me saying thank you. You say, wow, this was great. Thank you so much for this. If I haven't said that yet, you probably haven't earned the right yet. So like, chill your horses a little bit. Slow down. Because, I mean, I don't know. I assume that other people sort of react the same way that I did, which is like, man, hold on. That felt a little abrupt. That just felt a little abrupt. Let me find out if I like you for it. It's kind of like when you go to a website and, within like the first 5 seconds, it's popping up saying, hey, do you want to subscribe? I'm like, I don't know yet. Give me a minute. Let me see. I don't know if you have anything worthwhile here or not. Give me a couple of minutes to explore, and then you can do your pop-up and say, hey, you want to subscribe? Sure. Don't do it in the first, 3 seconds. So just something to think about there. So any questions, comments, ahas?
I have two ahas.
Okay.
That I'm gonna actually introduce in my presentation.
Thank you.
The first one is that in my buyer presentation, I'm going to, if the part of the buyer presentation is going to be the real home inspection. I think that's very, very important, and it's the very part of the negotiation through all the process of the buyer, the transaction.
Yep.
On the other hand, I always ask at the end of the presentation. My presentation is pretty long. It's a lot of conversation,
Mhm.
So I always ask for referral, but I think that you are completely right, and I read it, but now you said it. And there is a time where you were good on something that they say, thank you so much, Giovanna. And that's the time that you say, okay, ask for referral.
Yep. Well done.
Pam, I'm
Yes.
going right now for to get for buyer's view on my seller's property,
Mhm.
and we still haven't signed the contract. Now, she started negotiations on our initial consultation.
Mhm.
Now I'm a little bit stressed because I don't know if more negotiation, negotiation comes from her part. Now I don't know how to handle it. Like I give 5% commission, like I want to make sure I get 5% commission for the paperwork. So what, like, if she continues asking, should I just need a script to?
Well, so, okay, so there's a couple of different ones and you can decide what you like. I mean, everybody and their brother's got a good commission handler. So one of the things that I had an agent used to do, it's harder to do at 5%. It's easier to do at 6%. But if you go in with 6 $1 bills,
Uh-huh.
I think we can adjust this. So think about this. You go in with 6 $1 bills and then say, hey, can you make it 5? And you're like, well, okay, so 3 of these go to the buyer and the buyer's agent, right? And then 1 of these goes to my broker and 1 of these goes to my expenses. You're asking me for my last dollar.
Wow, that's very powerful.
Yeah. So you could try that. It's harder to do with 5, although you could say, like, I don't know, maybe you could do it with quarters, right? Or $50 coins, 50-cent coins. You can do, 2.5 of this goes to the buyer's agent, 2 of these go to my, 2 of these 50-cent coins go to my broker.
Yeah.
You're asking, like, there's
Actually, if you don't pay the buyer enough, they're not going to bring their top dollar buyers.
Exactly. Yeah. And we don't want to have them we don't want to have the buyer's agent not bring buyers. So that, like, that's one way to do it. The other thing to do is tell me what's important about that. Oh, well, I want to pay less commission. So tell me what's important about that. Well, I just don't want to pay that much. So I'm curious, is it more about the percent commission that you pay or how much money you actually put in your pocket at the end of the day?
Uh-huh.
Well, it's more about how much money I put in my pocket. Well, research shows that when you discount the commission, you end up actually putting less in your pocket at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Because having more for the buyer's agent means that they're going to be working harder and more people are going to be bringing buyers, which makes it more in demand. And now you've got supply and demand.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So you can try a couple of those on.
Yeah.
See what you think.
That's really good. Thank you.
My pleasure. Okay, let's see. So the skills, we actually went through a lot of this sort of as we did this. So I'm going to keep just going through this. Once we get our skills, right? All right, I've got my skills. I know that I'm hitting at least 70% conversion rate every time. I'm really good at this. Okay, then what? What's next? The next thing is to review your systems and models. And I am an MREA all the way girl. Okay, so Millionaire Real Estate Agent. If you have not read Millionaire Real Estate Agent 12 times, get it back out. And I need you to read it not as a novel, because I'm going to tell you that if you try to read it as a novel, you're not going to get further than about the first 35 or 40 pages. Because much as I love and admire Gary Keller, he's a crappy novelist. Okay, there's no plot development, there's no character development. Like, this is not a novel. What it is an operations manual. And I'd love for you to read this book cover to cover once a month for a year with a different color pen or highlighter every time. Because you will read it differently as you grow and learn. But the big thing is to remember that there's 4 models. The models sort of go in order. They do come back around to each other, but really understanding. So that little exercise that I did at the beginning with how many closings and fallout rate and all that, that's called the economic model. In order for you to do the economic model for yourself, you need to know your conversion rates. And if you're not tracking them, we're just guessing. So track your conversion rates. How many appointments do you go on? How many of those actually sign a representation agreement? And you only get to count any one human once if you go out and meet with them and it takes you going back 2 or 3 times to get them to sign the paperwork. Showings don't count. That's not an appointment. That's a showing. So you don't get to count that. So you should be checking in here your conversion rates. And I also want you to be thinking about what % commission are you earning? I am not tremendously interested in what the listing agent is willing to give you. If you are representing buyers, you are earning more than 3% commission. You just aren't asking for it. All you need is a great script, right? Like I could say, you know, Sarah, I'm going to do all these things for you. I went through this whole process. Look at all these paperwork and all these, you know, processes that have to get managed. And I'm going to manage all of these details for you. And I do this for only 3% of the sales price. Isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like when you go to a restaurant, you always tip like 15 or 20%, right? Yeah. And if you go to a more expensive restaurant, you don't tip less. Often you tip more. So for only 3% of the sales price, I do all this for you. And you know what's the best part? The seller's going to pay part of that for you. You only owe me the difference between what the seller's offering and the 3%.
That's very good. I
Yeah.
never even thought that we could, like, that never even crossed my mind.
And now that's why I'm saying it now. I don't see any reason at all why we should ever accept less than 3. Okay, sorry. VA buyers may not be able to pay your commission. I'm not sure about FHA anymore. But you know what? Most of you aren't getting it because you're not even asking. You're not even thinking about asking. I know a bunch of people up like in Baltimore that do 3.5% and 4% every time, no matter who they represent. And why not? Go ahead, Giovanna.
I always wanted to ask you a question because I always kind of go through, but I really would like you to tell me, how do you, in the part where it says about the commission in the buyer contract, exclusive right to represent, there is a part where it says that you pay, I put 3%, and most of the cases, the buyer pay this part, but in most of the cases, seller pays this part of the. So how do you handle that part when they say, oh, but I have to pay that 3% because it's what the contract says?
Yeah, you have to, yes. Remember how I'm doing all of these things for you for only 3%. And actually, I'm doing all of this for you and you're only having to pay 1%. Because the seller is paying too. So you're just telling them that they have to make up the difference. You do it after you show value, 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 and this is all it costs. They actually don't know. They really don't know. They don't know how it works.
Yeah, but sometimes they are very, when they are very like those kind of buyers that read every line of the contract.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to be sure what do you say?
Yeah. So I would, before you get that far, remind them, right? Now, remember, I'm doing all this for 3% of the sales price. And on this house, the seller's paying 2.5. That means you're going to make up the difference. And make sure that your lender puts that on their GFE. Don't surprise them with it. Put it on the GFE.
But you say, so how much you put in your exclusive right to represent?
So I don't know your paperwork here. I don't know.
I put like 3%. So let's
Perfect.
say the listing agent is gonna give me a 2.5.
Then the
That-
buyer owes the other half.
Go to, yeah, exactly, to go to our
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Buyer owes the other half. Yeah, absolutely. So this is huge about working smarter, right? About not working for less. And I think sometimes people say, oh, it's a really expensive house, so I'll do it for less. You don't tip less when you go to a nice restaurant. You tip higher when you go to a nice restaurant usually. And you think you're not working harder on those bigger ones? Come on. Now, honestly, the hardest ones are the tiny ones, because usually you have to sell those 3 or 4 times before they stick. So, okay, the tiny ones are the hardest ones, but you're working harder on those bigger ones. You're having to take a lot more time and attention. Know that you're worth it. Make your skills good enough that you're worth it. Sorry, soapbox dismounted for the moment, just for now. The second model is the lead generation model. So the lead generation model says that we need to have pillars of lead generation, right? How are we going to get the business that comes to us? And I like to think about this in pillars, and what supports the pillars are action steps. So 3 pillars are best. 2 are fine if you're going to do really well with them. 4, 5, 6, you're just shotgunning and you're probably not going to get great results. I think too often real estate agents are pinging around and they don't do enough of anything to get results. So 2 or 3 methods of lead generation and get good at those. And by the way, one of them has to be Sphere, Circle, database, whatever you want to call that. It's got to be one of those. Follow the model. We know the model, right? We know that when you've got people that know you, like you, trust you as a real estate agent, and you stay in touch with them 36 times every year, that for every 12, you're going to get 2 closed transactions or more. I got more. If you came to my last class, you know I got more. Follow the model and then check your return on investment for each pillar. How much did I spend? What did I get from that lead source? What was the percent? How much are you spending? If you're not getting $8, $10, $12 for every dollar that you're spending, reevaluate. Reevaluate. Maybe you should be spending money on something else instead. Budget model, make sure that you're looking at all the money that you're spending and checking return on investment for all of it, because there's a difference between spending and investing. And I think very often we get convinced that we ought to be spending money when what we really ought to be doing is investing. So what return are we getting when we're doing that? And then the last one is where people generally start when they're talking about working smarter, which is the organizational model. In my mind, there's a reason this is last. We put the organizational model last because you should wait until you have the other stuff pretty well in place. Now, if you're closing 2 or 3 transactions a month, you need some help. Before then, you probably need to be outsourcing. I love to outsource, right? There's a website that I go to all the time. It's called Upwork, UPWORK, upwork.com. You can get somebody to do just about anything. I actually needed somebody to draw the plans for the addition on my house, and I got ghosted by all the engineers around here. I got it done in 4 days for 1/3 of the cost on Upwork. And he was great, did a great job. Sorry, I'm gonna go back 1 quick second on systems. So when you're working on your systems, you need to think about being both efficient and effective. So if you can invest just 1 hour this week in improving one of your systems, which one would make you the most money? And it's gonna be different answers for all of you. So what would it be? If you can invest just 1 hour this week in improving one of your systems, which one would make you the most money? Or which one's costing you the most money? All right. Give me some ahas and action steps, because the difference between education and entertainment is implementation. Can I go back to the slide with the systems on it? I don't know, maybe. Let me see. That one? See if that's the one. Yes, there you go, Alyssa. Okay, so what's the difference between education and entertainment?
Action.
Taking action. Okay, so what are you going to implement as a result of having invested an hour of your time today? Or did you just spend an hour?
Execute.
Go ahead. What are you gonna do? You spent an hour. What are you gonna get for this hour that you spent? What's the return?
Execute.
What are you gonna execute? Tell me what exactly, Giovanna. The more specific you are.
Well, for example, I'm sorry, I was just jumping. I'm just, warming my food. But just based on what I catch up now, I'm going to execute what I learned today in my regular presentation.
Great. I love it. Thank you. Who else? Nobody else? Pam.
I'm going to read the MREA once a month.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it. I was looking for my copy. I'll show you guys what a well-read copy looks like. Does yours look like, oh, if you take your copy of your book and just go to any office supply store for like $5, they'll spiral bind it for you.
That's so cool.
Yeah, for like $5, it's cheap. Go get it done. Okay, who else? What are you going to implement as a result of having been here today? Hakeem, have you been here the whole time, or you just sort of, ghosted me, man?
Looks like he's ghosting you now.
It does. It does. All right, come on, one more person. What are you going to implement as a result of having been here today?
I'm going to leverage my database. All of it.
I love it.
Well,
Yeah.
I am the referral queen, and there are about 3 people on this call that I've given referrals to. And first and foremost, the minute somebody trusts you, that is key. That is when you become a solid referral. I refer people because they are trusted, either references, colleagues, people I've known, and not because they like me, it's because they trust me. And I trust them. And so that's the relationship piece of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, going once.
Come on, everybody, come on.
This is why I don't like blank screens.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're not really here. Okay, well, cool. So this is your last shot at me. Anything else I can answer? Because then I'm going to boogie.
It's your last shot today. She got class on the 29th.
Yeah, we'll see. Camera's on, man. Camera's on.
I'd like to ask you, when they say thank you, how do you feel comfortable asking for the introduction?
So I'd say something like, Pam, thank you for noticing. What I've discovered is that most agents spend so much time running around looking for their next deal that they can't take great care of the people that they're working with. And so if you know anybody that could really use an experience like this one in real estate, I would so appreciate an introduction.
No, I like that.
The other thing that I like to say is when you're talking to people just in general, to say something like, you know, no matter how busy I look, I always have time to help you or anyone you care about with real estate. No matter how busy I look, I always have time to help you or anyone you care about with real estate. I like scripts.
There is one that you just said, that is not everything is about commission, but about how much money you want to get in your pocket. It's
Yep.
very-
Yeah, I really like that script too. Yeah, it's not about like, so what's important about that? Well, because when you ask what's important about that, well, I want to save money. Well, do you want to save money or do you want to net the most money that you can?
Yeah.
Because in my experience, most people want to net the most money that they can.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Okay, well, experience shows that people who discount commissions end up netting less in the long run. And NAR has those statistics. You can just go pull them from NAR.
Another good recommendation from you was, well, buyers are a liar, and sometimes they really are. But in other hand, I guess that there are so much ignorance from them, and we have to be very empathetic with that and ask better questions so they can have a, because there are so many, you know, areas that they have no idea that we should introduce through our questions.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and ask better questions and dig deeper. What's important about that? Tell me more about that. What does that look like to you? Because my thought, you know, my view on that statement and yours might be very different. So describe it to me. What does that mean? You know, I want a big yard. To some people might mean 5 acres. To some people means I want a little dog run. You know,
Yeah.
what does that mean? Tell me. I don't know what it means. I don't want to assume, because you know what happens when you assume. Take out the letters, break it out, make an ass of you and me. Don't assume, just ask.
That's true.
All right, everybody good?
Great. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
My pleasure. Good seeing everybody. Y'all take care. See ya.
Bye, Pam. Thanks.
Bye.